Well, welcome to your August ACE talking stick. Thank you for taking time out. I know it is a super busy time of year, so we'll make sure and have lots of good information for you to make it worth your while. We'll get started as usual with our disclaimer.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
All right. Well, today we're going to have a little bit of program sharing from one of your fellow grantees. We're going to talk about some important things as we get ready to move into year 2 of your ACE grant. And then also a time for you to share some challenges you may be having, solicit feedback from your peers, from your program officer, from the TA team, and just have some time for discussion and questions. And then we'll also share some exciting upcoming events. And with that, I'll welcome your program officer, Bianca.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. And thank you for all of those who I've been speaking with one-on-one. It's been super enlightful to hear from you and learn more about your program. Again, if you have not set up a one-on-one schedule with me, please do so. There's about 8 grantees that I have not had a time slot scheduled yet. So I definitely want to speak with everyone before the second fiscal year. So please reach out to me if you need the link for the available slots, but it's super nice to hear from everyone. Don't, feel like I'm asking questions or, it's just really for you at a platform. So nothing to be nervous about. If there's any questions or concerns, or if you have other people you want to invite to the call, please welcome whoever needs to be on the call. But it's been super helpful for me, and I have found it super helpful for those grantees that I've met with. We've been getting a lot of things done. More budgets are coming in. The implementation requirements are coming in, and it's been awesome to hear from everyone. So thank you again for joining. And yeah.
All right. Well, we know that all of you have been really interested in how other folks are implementing their ACE grants. And so over the next few months, we'd like to kind of give some opportunities for various programs to share some things that have been working for them, how they've been developing their programs, so that you can start to learn more about each other. So to kick off our program sharing, Rusty was nice enough to be our first guinea pig for this and share about their project at the National Indian Education Association. So they're really serving the entirety of Navajo Nation. So they have a very wide service area and a large number of students you can see that they are aiming to serve with their Supporting Student Success in Navajo Nation project. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Rusty to tell you more about their project.
See how I can make myself. Hello.
You are?
Huh?
I was like, there you are.
Here I am. I have a presentation. I don't know if I can show it or not.
Absolutely. So you should be able to share your screen now.
Oh, there it is. Share screen. Oh, it says host disabled.
Oh, let me let you. All right, try now. Oh,
Right.
sorry. It moved around. Okay, now.
Now it does. All right. I'm just going to leave it like this. So yes, I'm Rusty Hui, working for the National Indian Education Association, and our grant is called Supporting Student Success in Navajo Nation, and it never fails. My dog does this.
think his dog just wants to be a star.
Okay, so then here, if in the event that you don't know where Navajo Nation is, it is here at the Four Corners area with Utah, Navajo, or Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. And it's really quite large. I was there a couple of weeks ago and was driving from Albuquerque to Farmington and back down to Crown Point and some other places. And Farmington to Albuquerque is like 3 hours. So it's a lot of driving, beautiful country, but there's not a lot up there. And Sarah said, we're working with the 37 tribally controlled schools and residential halls there on the nation. They are, the Navajo Nation also refers to them as grant funded schools. And I know you probably can't see that, but there's the list of the 37 schools and residential halls that we're going to work with. And there are, when we submitted the application, there were about 900 or 9,440 students that attended these schools. And we're shooting, this first year of implementation, I think we're going to try to, is around 15, kind of probably an average of about 15% of the students we're hoping to get with the various programs that services that we're going to have. And so we move into some of the services that NIA hopes to, that we're going to provide directly. Is we're going to do the Dene culture and history and boarding school trauma and healing. So with the first one, with the Dene culture, we are working with the Department of Dene Education, which is the Navajo Department of Education. We've been assessing which courses they currently have. Will help develop any supplementary curriculum, plan on involving elders, traditional knowledge keepers, and communities. One thing that I did learn when I was out there was that, and it made sense that some of the various schools really wanted the community input, because what may be, kind of how the communities developed over in New Mexico may be somewhat different than on the other side of the reservation in Arizona. So they wanted to kind of make it some local culture and history also. Then with the boarding school trauma and healing, we already do some trauma-informed education, trauma-informed healing support, really trying to build up the confidence of the students and our communities in general, just to control our own narrative and our own histories, and to ensure where we're going to be going in the future, and make sure it's a good place. We do intergenerational trauma, and then one of the things that we do is the blanket exercise. We've done that. We've been doing that for a while. It's pretty powerful, and a lot of people really like seeing it because it's a very visual type of training. So it's pretty interesting. Then what we're doing with Navajo Tech, we're going to provide dual enrollment. So students can get dual credits for high school classes and college courses through Navajo Tech University. And then we're also going to provide services, vocational and technical training. Navajo Tech has a really wide variety of technical and vocational trainings, from welding, construction, culinary arts, drafting. And this one is kind of interesting because it requires an MOU between the school and Navajo Tech. And so some of the schools already have those MOUs in place, and then some of the schools that we're working with are currently kind of negotiating those MOUs and getting them before their boards to get approval. And then the final two services that we're going to provide is we're going to do academic tutoring, and we'll do career assessment and guidance, and they'll be through the academic tutoring is through an organization or a company called YUP, and they do K through 12 math tutoring via texts, image sharing, and digital whiteboards. And it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week service. If a student is having a problem with their math, whether it's a kindergarten, you're trying to get 2 + 2, or a calculus problem with a high school student, they're able to take a photo of it if they have a phone or a way to take a photo of it. They can send it to a tutor on the other end, and they will be able to, going back and forth on the digital whiteboard, they'll be able to help figure out how to solve it. Then we're with career assessment and guidance, we're going with UScience as the service provider, and they have a really neat program that where you take this big long test and identifies your aptitudes, and then we'll kind of steer you to some career paths, aligning your talents to academic programs that you might be interested at university or vocational, kind of like what NTU is going to offer, one of their services. It also connects talent to local jobs and kind of can provide you information for the area that you're in, with what kind of jobs are available, what kind of salaries are in those positions. And then they can also offer some other certifications. And so we've got some guidance counselors that are super excited about this, working with their students. So, you know, I know this is a big part of the grant also is making sure that there's a service selection and feedback forms. And so on how the students and families can select the services, we have 3 ways. There's the website that we've created, which I'll show you, a mobile app that we're creating, and then a toll-free number. So this is our website, and this is our toll-free number. And then our mobile app is named Navajo Nation Student Success. And the app and the website are going to be tied together, and they'll be collecting data on the backside. So for the reporting type data that we have to do. Then on the feedback forms, we have family and student success or family and student feedback forms on both the website and the mobile app, and anyone that wants to use the toll-free number can call, and you'll basically get me, and I will fill those forms out for you. And also you can fill out a form for new service provider recommendations. So anyone, if they're not happy with YUP or UScience or NTU, or they can always, if they have someone else that they would like us to look into and maybe provide services, use as a service provider, they can recommend that to us also. Then, so I just wanted to show you kind of, this is some screenshots from our mobile web, or our mobile app. So you can see here, you can come in and enroll today in a direct service, and you'll just be able to kind of click on whichever service you want. Here's kind of the enrollment form, student name, grade level, you can submit it. And then you can always contact us, send us a message, or give us a phone call at our toll-free number, which you'll get me again. And then I wanted to show, we've started doing some advertising in the Navajo Times and some of the local areas. And this is, and we've also worked with NTU. They've been putting out some, they send packages to the schools. And so they said they've been including this flyer for us. YUP is starting to send some welcome packages. They've been including this also. So just trying to, you know, keep spreading the word over this big area and all the schools that we're working with. So that's the little presentation I put together. And then I was going to show you our website, which is really, I like our website. It looks really nice. So this is the home page. You can scroll down, kind of gives a little bit of what, you know, a little description of what we're doing. And then you can, here's the 6 services that we are going to provide, and you can click on one, and it will take you to the its website or its page, and you can, it's not live yet, so, but then you can fill this in, and you'll register for the class or the service with YUP, and we still need to do some editing on this. Here we go. So like with academic tutoring, we're letting YUP kind of put some of their information on there so that they have this little video so that students and families, when they come, they can see what the service provider is like and who they are, just get a little bit more background from them. And then service feedback forms. Again, it's not live yet, so these aren't, you can't fill them in, but here will be the service feedback form that families, parents, and students can fill in, which will come to me so that we can look at those and we're reporting. Here's the other service provider recommendation form that I talked about. Again, come to me so we can kind of evaluate, you know, what people like, what they're not happy with, what can change, what can be better. Then there's the pull down menu, so you can go to any of those same pages. Next, here's where you can also download the app. It'll be for Android or Apple. And then just a little bit about the program. Our privacy policy. And this is, you know, was a big thing. It took a while to get this all done. And then I wanted to talk about, that was another thing that I wanted to lead me to talk about the contracts. We're using the contracts, the service provider agreements provided by OIE. And while they were pretty straightforward and easy to kind of fill in the blanks, one thing I just, and maybe many of you already know this if you've started working with those, it took a little while to negotiate some of the privacy deals, because we would get from like Yup and from UScience, they've already got their standard contracts with the privacy agreements and privacy stuff in there. But you know, just to make sure that we were also covering our bases for NIEA, we had our attorneys look at it, and so there was just a little bit of going back and forth with some of the language on there to make sure that everyone was happy with it, and that NIA was going to, you know, make sure that we were doing the right thing when we were collecting this data, that we weren't going to use it in any improperly. So all the parents and families are secure in the knowledge that yes, what we're collecting is only going to be used the way that laws allow us to use it. And that's about it. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if Judy's on here, she would like to say anything.
Yeah, so everybody, you have the ability to unmute yourselves, so you're welcome to unmute and ask any questions you might have, as well as pop them in the chat box if that's easier for you as well.
Hey, Rusty, it's Ryan Crane. Great presentation. I've actually enjoyed looking at your site. I know you're one of the first ones to have the site up, the basics of what you were doing. I have a question on the back end. So when you have your students that are enrolled and families enrolled, how do you then do your onboarding process with the outside vendors? How do they receive the information from you?
That's a good question. Well, right now, so actually the two service providers, Yup and UScience, they're in the process of working with the schools, the teachers, and the guidance counselors and the principals, and they'll be able to send out, working with those folks, they're going to send out a kind of a school-wide email to all of the students, so that the students can then either go to our service and our website, or with that link that they're provided, they can just go on to their platform, UScience or Yup's platform, and start using that also. And both of those, I'll have admin kind of ability to check in on their platforms. Also, they'll give me access to the students, to our students, so that I can gather any information that may not be coming through our website or our mobile app. Is that?
You got the thumbs up, so I think it answered this question. Great. Any other questions anyone has?
Yes, Rusty, this is Kelly Brame. I have a question regarding, I love your website and how the individuals can go in and make their selection. So what happens if you have too many individuals that select dual? Do you have a method as far as is it first come, first serve, or what are you doing?
So we do. That is, I actually just pulled up because I'm gonna probably send Bianca our implementation descriptions, hopefully next week. And so the statement on our application is, it is for the services that may have more demand than supply, a lottery will be employed, whereby students who have expressed interest will be randomly selected during a public drawing. So it's not a first come, first serve really, but if there's a high demand, there will be a supply or a lottery. But with YUP and Youth Science, they have the capacity to service all 9,500 students. If 100% of the students wanted their service, they're able to provide that with just the capacity that they have. NTU, they're very excited about potentially even expanding their services and dual enrollment. And with the grant, we have the capacity to assist them with that. So we're actually hoping that a lot of students use NTU. And then with NIEA, everyone's got resource issues and travel issues, but I think that we can meet a lot of the needs. So while it is potential, and there is that great potential that we'll have too many students signing up and too many families, I think that we have a pretty good idea of how to move forward, especially with the YUP and Youth Science having capacity to serve 100% of the students.
Thank you. One of the questions that I had was on the dual enrollment part. Are you providing also financial assistance in order for them to take those courses?
Yes, so the classes, and I forget exactly how the MOU is written up. I'd have to go back and look, but yes, if there's expenses involved, through the grant, we do have funding to like buy books and provide some assistance that way.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in again if that's all right.
Go for it.
So I noticed how many students you had mentioned that you're hoping to service. Do you have a plan on how you're going to be doing that? Is it per semester? And then a follow-up to that, are you counting then if a student is in your first semester and then they join in second or the next year, is that one unique student, or is that then considered two because they've gone in through multiple different programming?
It would be one student. I'm not really. The confidence on that one went down a little bit.
I'm in that same boat because I have 1,000 students, but I'm going to have plenty students that come back into the program that pick different options. So I'm having a hard time figuring out how we count them. And I was wondering if anyone else had something in place.
It's a good question.
Yeah, and if anybody else has a great answer for Ryan's question, you're welcome to hop in as well.
Wouldn't you count each student for each service? So if I had a service doing counseling and tutoring, it's one student, but that they're participating in more than one service.
True.
So for collecting the data, wouldn't you you'd collect data on each service provided, right? Depending on your GEPRA measures and your reporting.
Yeah, so in regards to the GEPRA measure piece, so all of you have different project objectives, so that is going to vary wildly by your project and how you've described that you're going to do that. Typically, when we're looking at just the pure number of students served per year, of course, you want to track how many are being served in all your various services. So yeah, if they're receiving academic tutoring and they're receiving a culture course, you would want to track both of those. but typically each unique student is what would count. So how many unique kiddos you saw each year, whether they participated in one service or participated in 7.
This is Bianca. I also think like a lot of the confusion has been like your targeted students for the project. So in your application, if you said you're going to target, I think Rusty's was like 1,000 or something, or whatever your number was to target is one thing versus, how many services each student can sign up for each year is completely different, and year by year that might change, if one service is super popular versus another service, you might end up having, a lot more students in that. So I think where the confusion is getting is 2 different things, like your total target that you want to reach for that was in your application needs to be, solid. Like if you said you're going to reach 500 students in a year, then you need to try to reach 500 in a year. If you said you're going to reach 500 students over the course of the 5 years, then you need to reach, the 500 students. So each application came in completely different, but then, how you're counting the student for the service, like I forgot who just mentioned that, but yeah, you should count each student for each service separately, to collect that data from that service, if that makes sense.
It does.
Sorry about opening that can of worms, but it's just hard because on our application, it wasn't specific on, is that unique students? Is that per service? It was just written as 1,000 students, and I didn't write that. So I'm just trying to determine what they were thinking, and they really didn't have an answer for me. So
this is Sandy from the Winnebago tribe. Me and Sarah kind of had a similar conversation a few weeks ago about potentially averaging the numbers. So that's kind of something that we was talking about too. If the students did more than one service, how would you count that? And we was thinking about averaging all, even if they're in the same student is in the different services, to average that number. So I think that's kind of something we was thinking about doing.
Yeah, and you can also, if you're looking at your grant and you're thinking, I'm not exactly sure how to address what was in there, reach out and we can always, whether it be Bianca or the TA team, kind of look at how yours was written as well and help you kind of think through, how can I measure that? What's the best way to get that? Because everybody's moving. If you've not already started implementation, everybody is eminently going to be implementing. So it's a great time to be thinking about those things. All right, any other questions for Rusty today?
Rusty, I have one more. This is Kelly Brain.
Sure.
Okay, so how many, just out of curiosity, how many staff do you have on your particular grant? Because you are serving a large amount of students, and we're kind of already seeing some things within our own project, because you want to do these wonderful activities, but you find yourself kind of being stretched in multiple directions. So I just wanted to see kind of how many were on yours and how you're addressing, because you do have a large number.
Right now, it's primarily me.
That's what I was wondering.
I know, and our development director, I think that she was late. I think she's on here now. Judy, she's doing some helping also, but unfortunately, with the service providers, that that we're contracting with, they're doing a large portion of their own stuff, so they're doing a lot of reaching out for the services that they're going to provide. So that's really helpful. But yeah, just kind of the behind the scenes day to day, it's primarily me with some help from Judy. And yes, it is a very large area that we're trying to cover with a lot of folks. It's requiring a lot of partnerships with schools, and the pandemic's not making it any easier. And I would love to be able to travel out there like once a month. But I finally made it out there once to northern New Mexico. But yeah, you get stretched thin. It's a lot, it's a big area.
A small but mighty team.
We're making it happen.
All right, well, if you have other questions for Rusty as we're going through, feel free to pop those in the chat box or bring them up. But thank you, Rusty, for sharing with
You're
us.
very welcome. We're very glad to have been able to share. And I just scanning through the chat box, I saw a few people ask for my contact information. So I'll just put it in there to everyone. I'll give you my phone number and my email. So that way, if you have any more questions or comments or just want to commiserate over ACE, happy to do that.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah and Bianca.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll pop back up that slide too, because that does also have your email address and then also the web address. So if you want to go check out that website or email Rusty there at rbrown@niea.org. All right, so as we kind of got into in that Q&A, we are all moving toward year 2, which means that effective October 1st, we'll all be in implementation. So we'll all be starting to actually provide services to students. So we want to make sure that everybody feels ready for year 2. And there are a few things that we want to also make sure are completed before you start year 2 or before you start your implementation, because they're requirements of the grant. Oh, and I see, I'm going to copy Rusty's info here. I think it just went to me. There you go. His contact info is up in the chat. So the first thing is, and I know we've talked about this a bit before, but we also have some fresh faces on. Remember that before you start implementation, and I know some of you are starting implementation literally this month or next month. And then, like I said, everybody at minimum is starting in October. Before you start implementation, you must submit 4 things to Bianca for approval. Now, the important thing to remember about that is she cannot approve all of them overnight. She actually does read them and review them and may have to provide you with feedback and have you change some things or provide additional clarification. So if you're trying to implement October 1st and you send them in September 29th, you are not giving adequate time for those items to be reviewed and approved to then start your implementation. I highly, highly, highly encourage you that if you are one of the group that is starting to implement October, try to get these 4 items into her at least by the end of this month. So you have ample time to have them reviewed, provide any additional information that might be needed, and be ready to roll October 1st. Okay, don't stress yourself with turning them in at the last minute. So the 4 items, let's talk about them. A description of the operational service selection process. So this is where you're actually going to give a narrative explanation of how students and families will select services for your program. This cannot be solely a link to your website or your portal or a attachment of your service selection form. It really does need to be a narrative explanation of exactly what that process looks like. The second item is a description of your operational parent involvement and feedback process. Same thing, this can't just be a link to your feedback survey for your families. We really actually want a narrative explanation of how you're going to go about involving your families and procuring feedback from them. The third one is a sample of the written agreement between the grantee and service providers. And here's kind of the key, and a list of providers with whom you've gotten signed written agreements. So it's both your sample service provider agreement and a list of everybody that is going to be a provider with you and that you have completed a service provider agreement with. And then the fourth item is a description of the process that's going to be used to choose students to be served in the event that the demand for services exceeds your capacity, which we talked about a little bit there in our Q&A. It will not be sufficient to say, we can serve everybody. There has to actually be a process for if there are more students asking for one of your services, then you can serve, whether it be because that service provider can only serve a certain number of kids. Maybe fiscally, you have kids trying to sign up and it's beyond the amount of money that you would have available. You have to have that process in place. So those are the 4 items. As you're creating those, if you have questions, if you want to talk through any of it, again, reach out. The TA team is happy to meet with you and help you think through those items, as well as you can reach out to Bianca. So, ask those questions and get those turned in. I see Bianca has some tips for you as well.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, just like Sarah was saying, it doesn't have to be too worthy, but we just need to know like the actual process. So, for the parent involvement, are you going to send out a survey once a year at the beginning and at the end? Are you going to do it before each service, at the beginning of the service, at the end of the service? Just kind of your process behind it. Also, another thing for the 4th one, like if how are you going to have a fair process? A lot of people are like kind of saying, oh, we will, make it work or we'll find money. I love that. But when we don't have money and we can't, pull it from another place, are they going to do rock, paper, scissors? Are you going to have a priority system? Is it first, I need more detail instead of, we want to serve everyone. And I get it. I know a lot of people are figuring that out, but there are situations like, what if next year, you're in a small rural town and 10 more students come in that you never planned for, so let's just think that contingency, instead of the positive, approach that we're going to, serve everyone. We love that. But yeah, we just want to make sure that there is a fair process in place if there ever is, not enough funds to serve everyone. And then also remember, we do not need the full agreement filled out. We just need your sample one. So if it's, the one that we provided and it's adapted to your project, we need that. And then the list of the service provider agreements you're starting with. We know that those agreements are going to be changing throughout the year, or when you start implementing. If you're adding more service providers, you'll just submit a new list. And yeah, your operational, the service selection method, how are students selecting things? Even more of a detail, like if you're giving them, a certain amount of points to select services, if it's a certain amount of funds, if it's online, if it's in person, if it's working with a guidance counselor, just kind of describe the whole process behind it. And also the final thing about that, I know a lot of I was off for about a week and a half. So I am coming back to a lot that was submitted in that weekend and a half that I was gone. So yeah, I do have some in my folder that I want to review a little more thoroughly, and those will, get some feedback or information sent to. So thank you for those who have submitted some recently, and I look forward to all those who are still submitting some.
Great. Well, and that leads very nicely into our celebration of those who have already submitted and had approved all 4 of their implementation deliverables. So these are also folks that maybe if you want to reach out to a peer and see, oh, I'm kind of stuck on developing a process for what do I do if I can't serve everybody? Well, the American Indian Center of Arkansas, the American Indian Resource Center, Douglas Indian Association, Ho-Chunk Nation, Kawarek Inc., the Kanik Tribe, Lower Yukon School District, Tunica Biloxi Tribe of Louisiana, and the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska are your go-to people. They have completed theirs, and so you can reach out and ask them questions as well as, again, the TA team and Bianca. So I know everyone is diligently working on those, and some of them, like Bianca mentioned, are awaiting approval, but just something to make sure and start planning for now so that you have a nice, smooth transition into implementation. The other piece that is really important and necessary for smoothly transitioning both into implementation, into year 2, and just being a great grantee is having an approved budget in place. So of course, we have our update to our list of approved budget friends. So these are grantees who have submitted and had their grant budgets approved. Remember that everyone should be completing their revised budget. So some of you may be going kind of back and forth with Bianca, making some changes and some tweaks. If you do not see your name on this list, and you know that you have not submitted a budget to Bianca recently, please reach out, because we need you to have an approved budget. It is extremely important and a required component of your grant that you have that in place. And we have a lot of supports to help you get there. So, we at the TA team are happy to meet with you and literally walk through the budget spreadsheet and help you actually translate your budget into that format, the ACE way, so that you can get it in an approvable manner. Bianca's available to answer questions. We really want to support you and help you to get that budget where it needs to be as soon as humanly possible. Technically, we should have approved budgets for everybody by now. So we want to make sure that everybody is reaching out, getting that assistance, and getting those knocked out just as soon as possible. So I am going to pop our TA email address into the chat box in case anyone does not have it, so that you can let us know if you have questions or you need assistance, you'd like to meet and walk through that budget and get those knocked out. This is also the time when, if you have some general budget questions and would like to ask those, you are welcome to do so. All right, keep mulling that over as we move into our time for questions. So we are in a busy time of year. Many of you either are starting implementation currently or recently have, or you're planning to start implementation October 1st. You may be working on those implementation pieces, those budget pieces, and it's the start of the school year. So we really wanted to provide some time where you could ask questions, whether it be specifically about these grant pieces we've been talking about or about programming in general, and solicit feedback from your peers as well as your program officer, Bianca, and the TA team. So I'm going to stop share just so we can see each other, because I think it's nice when we're discussing to actually be able to see one another. And remember, you can unmute and ask any questions you might have, as well as pop them in the chat box, whatever's easier for you.
I always start. Someone else has to start this.
Yes, and know that just like with, I think what we tell a lot of students, if you have a question, there's probably about 4 more people that have your same question, but didn't want to unmute and ask the question.
Good morning, this is Mary Williams. I have a question.
All right.
So we're looking at doing our agreements and stuff. We're working at least finally to that point, but we're having struggles with how to determine how to pay people and how to put that into the agreements. So like, for instance, like tutoring is a hard one for us to kind of figure out, because students will be needing, if they select tutoring as their service, and then how is that provided to them? How frequently? How does it get paid? Like one child A may need tutoring, once a quarter just to get ready for a final or something. Another student might need it daily.
Yeah.
We didn't know how to distinguish that and write that into an agreement.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you some of the ways I've seen some of the other grantees kind of doing similar. And it really also depends on how your tutor is willing to be paid and how you're able to pay your tutor, how your organization works. But, if they're doing more on-demand tutoring where, student A might need 4 hours a year, but student B might need 32 hours a year, you can write their contract to be an hourly rate, where a student can sign up for that tutoring service and then however many hours of tutoring they receive from that tutor is what they would be paid for. And so, your tutor, of course, would have to then turn in their records. I tutored student A on these dates for these times. I tutored student B, and have those records, but you could set up their contract to basically be an hourly tutoring rate.
Okay, that makes sense. But then we didn't know like how, when you're saying that it has to be a per student cost, we didn't know how to separate that out.
Yeah, now that piece is a little trickier and is going to be a little bit of estimation. So I would say kind of twofold, because you're mainly putting that into your budget. And Bianca, tell me if this would be totally not the right way, but I think you could put an estimation of, on average, you think students are going to receive about 10 hours, and you'll have those who are on the higher end and those are on the lower, but on average, they're going to receive about 10 hours of tutoring, which would be X amount of dollars. And then you can always put in that note out beside it that you're actually paying that tutor on a per hourly basis.
Okay, and so like if we had, so when we're like setting a limit to as how many services they can either address, and we haven't really finalized that yet, if we're going to a limit by service or by dollar equaling amounts, then it wouldn't really make sense to do the dollars, because how would a person know that in advance?
Yeah, that would make it a little challenging for them to kind of predict in advance how many tutoring hours.
Yeah.
So if you want to go with the per dollar, I think you would have to maybe cap and say, we're going to cap tutoring at however many hours. But it may be, you may find it easier to set it up with, students can select a certain number of services.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mary.
So I have a question. It's a similar one.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have a CT. I'm in a YKSD, so we deal with a lot of remote schools here, remote small schools. And I have a CTE instructor that's going to go out and provide some HVAC instruction, which is like a really requested service. And so we have a set cost of like, that we're going to roll into like the cost per student service. And it would be like the airplane travel, the instructor daily rate, maybe a little bit too, just in case the plane doesn't show up and he's stuck there another day and we've taken up his time. So, all told, it's like it takes $3,000 to get the instructor on site with some tools and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Our schools are small, and, we know that the students have to select a service. I can be almost guaranteed that at least 2 students are going to do it. So the way I've been thinking about the service contract, and I believe you spoke to this in another one, is like the first 2 students can kind of bear the majority of the costs. Like, so take $3,000 divided by 2, $1,500 per cost. But then I anticipate like 6 or 7 students will be in the whole class. So I'm just going to add them as like a nominal amount of like, for each additional student, it's like $100 more. Is that okay to break that out that way? Because I just don't know what the enrollment's going to be, while I'm preparing this contract here in Fairbanks.
Yeah. So, when you're setting up those contracts, it's perfectly fine to have like, there's a set fee for the first certain number of kids. And, once you hit a certain number, then it goes down to maybe a cheaper rate, or potentially for some service providers, maybe a larger rate. The important thing is that it be reasonable, which in your instance, because of the travel involved, makes a different reasonable rate than someone whose travel is driving 10 minutes down the road. Right.
No, for normally it would be like it's just the travel and the staying overnight and and all that. But the main thing is can the first 2 kids bear the brunt of the contract, and then each one after that is like a nominal amount, just to make it so that it's because we're not going to add it $1,500 for each additional kid. That would be crazy, but we have to like, the instructor has to like, okay, I'm going to be able to get out there And
Yeah, and you would also then be setting in your contract that you have a 2-student minimum to make that
exactly,
class.
and that's in
Yeah,
there.
if we don't have at least 2 kids, we unfortunately can't hold that.
And we have
service.
a 2, and then I think we're going to set like an 8-kid maximum. And I anticipate it's going to be really well attended, but you know, it needs to be a low number just to make sure that we're going to be able to do it, you know.
Yeah, nope, that sounds
Is
fine.
that okay?
Yeah, that sounds like a perfectly fine way to structure your agreement.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, and I see your hand, Ryan, but I had a question in the chat I'm going to grab first, and then we'll head over to you. So Tina had a question. Can you talk about contracts with service providers? What's okay? And is there a specific format for the contract? Great question. So we did do a webinar. This would have been back in November 2020, all about contracts. And we'll grab the link for that for you. And we talked all about kind of how contracts work within the ACE framework, as well as provided a template. You do not have to use that specific template. I know a lot of the ACE grantees are using it because it was just a nice, easy way to ensure it had all the pieces required. One important thing when you're reviewing the template is that you'll see in the comments on the side, there are certain portions of that template that are required of an ACE agreement. So even if you maybe as a school district already have a contract that you typically use with service providers, it's fine to use that existing one. You may just need to add like an addendum page that includes those specific things that are really ACE required. So that's where that template can really come in handy, but I'll get you the link to that webinar and the actual document there in the chat too. Perfect, thank you. All right, and then Ryan, I think you are up next.
Yeah, I was just gonna follow up on Tom's question because I had something similar as well, where I know there's going to be certain fixed costs for events. No matter what, we're going to have those fixed costs for those events. But then afterwards, the rest of the items that are, you know, per student, you know, materials and all these other items that can go up or down depending on how many. So I for some of mine put in clawbacks saying, okay, you know, if we're at 100 students, you know, we know the cost is here, but if you go below or above, then the cost per student is going to move up by X amount of dollars, which is kind of what you were mentioning, getting to. Also with the last question on the contracts, our nation, we have general terms and conditions for our contractors that we have in place. And what we did is like, or just mentioning, adding an amendment to the end of it where you can have timetables, you can have description of the project, you have an open area where some of those specific ACE items will be placed. So.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to meet the requirements of your organization and the requirements of ACE. So yeah, don't feel like you have to go one way or the other.
Hey, Sarah, do you want to mention what you're working on? Contract statement.
Yeah. As we're talking about it. Yeah, so we have heard the request from the field for a data sharing agreement template. It was very funny, just a quinky dink, that throughout the summer, every talking circle, without it being an actual like assigned discussion topic, somehow brought up the challenges of data sharing. And so we are working on creating a template for a data sharing agreement that everyone, much like the contract one, is welcome to use or welcome to ignore, but just as another resource for you. I do encourage you, if you have certain things you would love to make sure are addressed or considered in the data sharing agreement, feel free to unmute and let us know now, pop it in the chat box, email it to me later. But we'd love to know, you know, if there are certain things that you feel like are really important for us to include in that, you know, give us that feedback so we can make sure and address that as we're creating a template for you.
Yeah, and we know we have different types of entities as the LEAs and the tribes. So we do want to make it, either customizable for each entity or, a different version for each. I know it's super complex and I'm happy someone else is taking the challenge. Because I'm not good when it comes to the technical words and, writing legally stuff, especially when it comes to privacy of kids. So I know a lot of people have been requesting that help with that, and hopefully, it satisfies everyone.
Yeah, I know that. I think that will be much anticipated. So we look forward to sharing that with you soon. I did also, for anyone else who was interested, I did pop the contract template and the link to the contract webinar over in the chat box for you. Any other questions today? All right. Then we're going to hop back in. Keep thinking about any questions you might have. We're always willing to take those as we go throughout. I did want to just remind you that we do still have the Padlet going. This is an older picture, so it doesn't show lots of the great things being shared, but we do have folks always sharing things like links to their portals, their websites. It's also a question you can pop in questions that you want addressed in the next talking stick. Our next talking stick will be in September. So you're always welcome to submit those questions here or via email that you want to make sure we include. I do want to give a little plug, though, to our OMB survey. So hopefully all of you received an email from the director of OAE, Julian Guerrero, on Monday. It would have come from his email address. So just be kind of on the lookout for that. It would be julian.guerrero@ed.gov. And he was sharing with you the link to our annual OMB survey. So for those of you who received a survey this summer, this is different. The survey that went out this summer comes from the Department of Ed and is only sent to project directors and is only sent to certain grant programs. This survey is through OIE, so it's specific to the Office of Indian Education. You'll definitely see that when you're looking at the questions. It also goes to everybody who's participated in TA events this year. So whether you're the official project director or not, if you've participated in any TA event up through the start of August, then you would have been eligible to participate in this survey. It is super short. It literally takes no more than 10 minutes to complete. And that would be kind of the high end of time it would take you, because it is very, very short. It is only open for the month of August. So we're asking everybody to ideally just knock it out today, because if you're like me, once I get off the webinar, then I'm like, oh, I've moved on with my day. So maybe take just a few minutes and knock it out today, but you have until the end of August. And it's really your opportunity to provide feedback about what's worked well this year, what maybe hasn't worked as well this year, and what you'd like to see next year in regards to technical assistance. So as we're wrapping up the first year of your grant, really letting us know what were those technical assistance things that you found useful or helpful, what things maybe not as much. And as we move into year two, what do you hope we continue providing, or new things that you hope we address and provide as far as support for all of you? So this is your way to provide that feedback very officially. So we would definitely appreciate any of you taking the time to go ahead and complete that. If you are unable to find that email, let me know and we can always get it for you. So don't worry too much about if you can't find that exact email, we can find it. It's always there somewhere.
Another thing I'm curious about is, should we keep the talking stick sessions separate with ACE and NYCP, or do you think it's kind of start bringing them back together? I liked how we had the sharing today from Rusty. If we want to kind of continue to highlight ACE and keep it separate, or I know half of my directors are also NYCP directors too. So I know it could be a lot on some of those. So I'm fine with either or, but I do want to know your opinion, if it's been more useful to kind of keep things separate, or would it be better to come together with NYCP?
Yeah, and you don't have to wait for the survey to provide that feedback. You can let us know now if you want to pop that in the chat box as far as whether you kind of like having a specific time or you want to go back to having combo time with NYCP. Because
that's like the new fiscal year. I don't know, I'm fine with this, but I'm also fine, working with NYCP as well. So it looks like ACE. Yeah, separate.
ACE separate, please.
Okay. It sounds
it
works
like
for me. So
like
I was just wondering if we needed to switch, but if we need to keep it, works completely. Okay, works for everyone, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's really the goal, even with the survey, is we want to do what's helpful for you. So it's really helpful to have that feedback. And Shannon, thank you for popping your email in. I will get the link over to you. But that brings up a really good point. As I look at our list of participants today, we do have a few new names. So if you are new to the ACE grant, or maybe you've been on the ACE grant for a while, but you haven't been getting the TA emails, give me your email address. You can pop that over into the chat box. Whether, if you don't want it to be public, you can always just direct message me, or you can also email it to me. And I'll put again our email address here in the chat box. But let us know your email address. Just send me your name, your role, your email address. And if your email address doesn't make it really clear who your grant is, and if some people are using like a Gmail account, that's fine, but I won't necessarily know which grant to put you on. But send me that info so we can make sure that you are getting the technical assistance emails, because we don't want anyone left out of the communication.
We do have a little bit of time. Do we want to do an introduction for some of those new people, or, have everyone kind of introduce themselves and their grant? And if you guys want to connect later, we can do that. I know me and Sarah know mostly everyone, but for you guys to know each other, I think that works too, right?
Yeah, we absolutely have a little time. And I also want to let you know, I've also put the link to the OMB survey here in the chat box. So you can also access it straight from there. It's that Survey Monkey link I just popped in. So if you don't want to go hunt through your email box for it, you can find it right there. All right, so I'm going to tell you our upcoming events, and then we can do a few intros. So I just wanted to give a quick plug for a couple of events. One, just remind you, our next Talking Stick session is September 9th at 1:30. Some of you do have NYCP grants as well, so remember that Talking Stick always follows this one. We also have this month our August OIE office hours. So particularly if you are newer, you may not be familiar with office hours. We do this once a month. It is open to all OIE discretionary grantees. And basically we open up a Zoom room for an hour. It is very informal. We have the TA team on, we have any of the program officers that are available, and you're able to just come in and we round robin and ask questions. So it's a really casual environment to be able to get feedback, ask any questions you might have. And it's always the last Thursday of the month from 1 to 2 Eastern. So that's available. And then we have two things coming up in September that I'm excited about. We are partnering with the National Native Center for Native Children's Center for Trauma, if I can say it right. And we are partnering with them to come in and provide two different trainings. One is called Trauma and Resilience in Tribal Communities. That's actually going to be a two-part series. We decided to break it up because I felt like 4 hours on Zoom can be a little much, particularly when it's a heavier topic. So we're going to do that on both September 14th and 16th. Again, they're not repeats. It's a two-part series. So you'll come on Tuesday for 2 hours and then on Thursday for 2 hours. And that's from 1 to 3 Eastern. I sent out a calendar invite for it the last week of July, but a lot of people were having trouble accepting it. So I'm going to send it out again, but in smaller batches this afternoon. So if you don't receive a calendar invite for it this afternoon, let me know tomorrow. Give me the opportunity this afternoon to send it out. But if you don't see it by tomorrow, reach out. That is open to anybody on your team. So we have open availability for that. Anyone who's interested can attend. Then we have mental health first aid. So I sent out a little bit of an interest survey to folks. I know it was during the summer, so everyone might not have really seen it, but we're going to be providing a mental health first aid training. It is something that you can actually receive a certificate for when you complete that you have been trained and certified in mental health first aid. You have to pre-register because I have very limited seating for this particular training. Some of you have already, through that pre-survey, reserved some spots. I do have about 18 spots remaining. This is not just open to ACE, it is open to all the OIE grant programs. So if this is something that you or someone on your team is interested in, please let me know as soon as possible so I can give you kind of dibs on a seat in that activity. A couple of things though, just to know about it, because it is something that you're going to be getting certified in, that there is a 2-hour pre-course. It's online, it's self-paced. You can do it whenever you have time, but you do have to complete it prior to the in-person portion on Zoom. And then the Zoom portion is a full day training. We will have lots of breaks, lunch breaks, stretch breaks, snack breaks, but it is a full day training because the certifying agency doesn't allow us to split it across multiple days. But it is a really robust training, really, really good information. So again, if that's something that you or someone on your team wants to attend, please reach out because we do have about 18 spots remaining in that one. All right, so then I'm going to unshare so we can do some intros. And in case anyone is having to hop, I'm also going to pop up our end of event poll here too. But we will run through and I will just go in the order I can see you on my screen. And if you're able to unmute and share with us your name, your role in your program, and what your program is, fabulous. If you are not, feel free to just denote in the chat box and I'll do a little intro for you. So first up on my screen is Chris Stogdill.
Hello, everybody. Chris Stogdill, Project Coordinator in Nebraska for the ACE grant.
Welcome, Chris. Next up is Georgia.
Did you say me?
I did, it's you.
Okay, Georgia Derrick, Tahlequah, Oklahoma, American Indian Resource Center. I'm the project director for NIEA ACE.
Thanks, Georgia. Next up is Tina.
Hello, my name is Tina Kalkin, and I am the co-project director for the ACE grant with the Nenana Native Association and transition coordinator at the Nenana City Schools.
Thanks, Tina. Next up, Ryan.
Oh, Ijikishna Hinikarigiwi. My name is Ryan John Crane Sr., and I am the project director for our ACE grant with the Ho-Chunk Nation.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's see, Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie Holden. I am the administrative assistant for the ACE grant project here in San Juan County.
Great. And next is John.
Hey, Ima John Barbary, Tisa. Greetings. My name is John Barbary, and I'm Director of Programming and Development for the Tunica Biloxi Tribe. I oversee our ACE grant, and I also oversee our Language and Cultural Revitalization Program. We just finished up our 4-year NYCP grant, so got some good experience and appreciate the support of our TA team and also Bianca and others in OIE. We're doing good work here and we appreciate all y'all's support.
Thanks, John. All right, next is Sienna.
Hi everyone, my name is Sienna Whittington. I'm the ACE project manager for the Hill River Indian community in Arizona. Thank you all.
And next, Monique.
Hi, my name is Monique, and I'm a family liaison with NACA Inspired Schools Network. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Monique. And Mary.
Hi, my name is Mary. I work with Georgia on the at the American Indian Resource Center in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, on the Native ACE project as a parent liaison.
Great. And Doug.
Hello, I'm Doug Walrath. I'm the director of the Northwestern Alaska Career and Technical Center in Nome, Alaska. We are a service provider working with Coeric Inc. on the ACE grant up here, the Alaska Native Engineering Education Development Project.
Great. And Juanita.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juanita Plentyholes, and I'm the director for the Tawahe program for the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, as well as the project director for the ACE grant. Thank you.
Thanks. And Patty.
Hi, I'm Patty Woody with Yukon-Koyukuk School District. I'm the Career and Technical Education Coordinator and we have an ACE grant.
Great. And Zachary.
Hi, Hui. My name is Zachary Conger here with the Tolowa Dini Nation. I am the project director for the ACE grant.
And then Larissa messaged me. She's next on my screen, but she is outside where it is super windy. So I'm going to come back to her and do her intro for her in just a moment. And so next up is Kelly.
Hello, Kelly Bryan with Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma with project director with Project Rise.
And Lenora.
Dalaha Hagiasham Kwiti Shihushi Kwete Wasli. I'm Lenora Hall for the Tolowa Dini Nation. And we have an ACE grant, and I just want to let the OIE team and Bianca to know that we really appreciate these talking sticks meetings and all of the other meetings. This is our first year in the grant, it's a planning year. And throughout all of these discussions and workshops, we feel pretty confident now. So thank you for all of your hard work.
Thanks, Lenora. Spencer.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm Spencer Singer. I work with San Juan School District. I'm the ACE grant director for our school district. And I'd like to echo the thanks for all the help and guidance and support in these meetings that were super helpful. And I've also had a chance to collaborate with some of the other grantees around the country, and I'm appreciative of all the help and how willing people are to share. So thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. All right, Tom.
Hello, my name is Tom Hall. I work for the Yukon-Koyukuk School District, and I'm the project director for the ACE Choices grant. And like everyone else, thank you guys for all of your help. You're always so helpful.
Thanks, Tom. And Marcus.
Hey everybody, me toca Marcos Aguilar, Kachiltique Nagniman. Good afternoon everybody here in Nanahuacalmecac in Otsugna, traditional Sangha Gabrielino Keys territory in Los Angeles. And I'm the board chair for CDC with an ACE grant.
Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I am the school family liaison for Omaha Nation Public School. And if anybody out there has any advice for me, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Brad.
I'm Brad King. I'm principal at Gustavus and Cluck One Schools in the Chatham School District, and I'm the project director for the ACE grant here.
And Sandy.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sandy Scott. I'm the project coordinator with the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. I oversee the ACE grantee. And I just want to say I encourage anybody to reach out if you need any help or have any questions. We're always welcome to share and help where we can.
Great. Shannon.
Skugsiardik, everybody. My name is Shannon Rivers. I'm here in Tongva, Chumash, Gabrielino, Quiche territory in Los Angeles. I am the director of programming for ACE here in Los Angeles. We're ready to take on this monster and we're excited to be a grantee. And I want to thank the team here for, I'm going to be reaching out to you a lot. So I'm the new guy. So I'm going to be, Marcos and I are looking forward to really working and trying to help the Native American students here in Los Angeles County. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks and welcome. And Bianca.
Hi, my name is Bianca and I'm with NACA Inspired School Network. I'm the family liaison working with Dreams in a Charter School in Sherbrooke, New Mexico.
Great. And John Hersred.
Hey, here we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just working on my, there we go, got it clicked. Good morning, John Hersherd, Director of Education and Youth Services here at Chinook Tribe in the Matsu Valley of Palmer, Alaska. Mostly choices, but we're also developing a charter school and just opened our STEAM Academy about 3 months ago. So it all blends together.
Busy time. And then Larissa is on with us. Larissa Soap is the project director for the Muskogee Creek Nation project in Oklahoma. And she is outside getting blown away preparing for a tribal ceremony this weekend, but it can hear all of you as well. All right, is there anybody I skipped? Because sometimes Zoom moves you around on my screen, so it's entirely possible. All right. Well, then I will also give you just one little peek here as we wrap of our contact information. Just in case any of you do not have contact info for Bianca, there is her email address, as well as the email address for the OIETA team and for the website for the Office of Indian Ed, which always has the up-to-date information, as well as if you're ever looking for a link to one of the upcoming events, those are on there as well. So always a good spot to look for any of those. That's all we have for today, but if any of you have any questions, we do have just a few minutes. We're happy to take any final questions and stay on with you. Otherwise, we will see you, if nothing else, in September, on September 9th for our September ACE talking stick, where we will remain just our ACE group for now.
Also, I do want to point out for all those new people, we have been doing a pretty good job at having these recorded and uploaded to our OESE website. So if anything sounds like super confusing to you about the implementation or the contracts or the budget, we've covered it in the recordings on it. Also, like, you know, the experts are all you, you know, so definitely reach out to the other directors on the line. We're all going through the same trials and tribulations with ACE, and we're working through it together. So, you know, if you are new, do not fear. We have a lot of resources and we have great people either with our, you know, here with synergy in the department or any of the directors as well. So thank you again for all of those and all the great work. Again, I was out for about a week and a half, so I am playing catch up. So, you know, if it's been over 2 weeks and you haven't heard from me, definitely shoot it another email to me again, but I am trying to approve. I see a lot of budgets coming in and implementation materials coming in, and I'm super excited. It's just a lot of things that's been throwing me around and taking time. So I will get those approved, our questions asked if needed. But I do thank you all for all the important work you all are doing. And I'm super excited for the next fiscal year because I know it should not be this hard and hectic as this first planning year. I think all of us are finally getting, you know, the idea of ACE together, and, you know, we're all moving forward at great pace. So I just seen something come up in the chat. I can put it in there, but it is our oese.ed.gov website. If you go find our OIE page and then find demonstration, there's a link that says resources, and all of the videos have been posted under resources on our page.
And I'll pop that link over as well.
Yeah, if the link will be easier, but
yeah, so there's the link to where you can locate all of that on the OASE website. And then I know some of you have found it helpful. We also post them on our OIE YouTube channel, and you can actually subscribe to that so that every time we post a new recording, you get a little notification. And I'll post the link to that as well. Yeah, and if you're ever looking for a particular recording and you're not sure which one it is, always reach out. We're happy to point you to the right recording, because we have all the events from this year recorded and up for you.
oh yeah, one more thing too, monitoring has started. So letters is going out. Projects were randomly selected to be monitored. We have to do this every year. Do not worry if you were selected. We're going to work with you and make sure you have those needed materials. So if you received a letter from G5 that you were selected for monitoring, you know, you can reach out. We'll get everything together before that date to have everything needed and to make sure that, you know, your project looks good. So do not worry about it. It is routine. It's not like you're in trouble. Even if something is found in monitoring, we're not taking your money away. It just shows us where we need to work on things. So do not be alarmed, but definitely look out for those emails if you were selected. We will need to set up a call within the next couple of weeks. Yeah, and that's all I can think of.
Yeah, no, and that's what we always like to remind folks. Monitoring is technical assistance. It's not a punishment. But yeah, you should have that letter in your G5, as well as you'll receive a follow-up email from our TA email address as well. All right, well, it looks like we've run through all the questions in the chat box. So with that, have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.